Okay, so what was farming like when you first can remember first started?
I was probably 12 years old. We all, five of us, all worked on the farm. We all square baled. We all had to we picked them up off the ground onto a truck and then took it to the barns and put it on a conveyor and then restacked it inside the barns. We all had small chores to do it around the farm, feed calves, feed some pigs. I do remember the can days when cows were milked and the milk was put into the cans and taken on trucks into Newport for cheese. And then we eventually went to bulk, and then I worked with Dad on the rest of my siblings in summer months, haying and weekends, and then I went to University of Maine for agricultural, animal science and ag business, and I came back and helped Dad for a few years, and then I got a job working for Westland Creamery, working with dairy farmers on quality control at the farm level, and then worked that for a few years, and then come back with Dad and worked some more, and now I'm working for Cabot Cheese, working with dairy farmers on quality control. We bought the beef herd 8 years ago from the University of Maine, and we are breeding them artificial and keeping them registered, and trying to build a herd up and possibly selling breeding stocks with it. Hopefully Joey will continue that tradition. If he does, he'd be the 6th generation on the farming this farm, so it's kind of a neat lifestyle and don't regret any of it.
What was 4-H like when you were in it?
4-H, I showed dairy cows. The VZ brothers up to Corinna, I went with them. They helped me a lot, and we showed dairy and showed in Skowhegan Fair, Bangor Fair, and Windsor. And I came as an alternate to the Eastern States with mine, and but I never did go to Eastern States. But those are good times, good years at 4-H.
How many cows was Grant milking when you first started up with him?
When I graduated from college, he was milking 45, and we probably had over 100 head of cattle, everything calves, heifers, replacements, and milk cows.
What do you guys have for equipment back then?
I remember going back with a 1952 John Deere A. That was my first tractor I drove that had the hand clutch, and that was 1952 model. And then we traded up to a 1010, and then we went to bought the M. And then when I graduated from college in '80, we bought that new tractor, the 2640, and now we bought that newer tractor in 2006. So I've started with the A and started with the John Deere and ended up with the John Deere's. We did have the old International square baler that would square bales up about 50-pound bales. And we had the horse-drawn manure spreader we hooked that up to the old farm wall, the John Deere A, and loaded with the other A. We had 2 A's, and then we had upgraded the farm equipment, haying equipment in 1969, and bought a new rake and a new baler and some hay wagons. We used to bale hay, square bales, dump them on the ground, and we'd pick them back up, put them on a trailer. But we eventually hooked the trailers to the square baler, and used to load the bales right out of the bale chamber right onto the wagon. So we only had to handle it once, and took that back to the farm and unloaded it.
What were the creameries and the dairies like back when there's a bunch of them around?
We had, I remember, of course, Hood's, Fitzpatrick and Fairfield, Lakeview, Herbie Turner's Lakeview, remember that. We had Grant's, Footman's, Pleasant Hill. We had White's in Bucksport, Smiley in Benton, and Hunt's and Gifford's in Skowhegan. That was all bottles. That was all fluid milk, and then the only one still in business in the immediate area is Grant's, and that's been sold to a out-of-state company. So all those that I've listed, there's only one still in business in the area. They're all gone.
How about all the butcher shops and slaughterhouses?
We used to send all our beef, we either send it to Heron Brothers in Guilford or Fortin Farm Family in Clinton or Bangor Beef, and occasionally we would send some out of state, but now the only place you can send any commercial beef now is Taylor Packing in Pennsylvania. It's out of state. Equipment dealer, we had a John Deere dealership right here in town, Lewis Brothers. They were potato farmers back in the 30s and 40s and bought a dealership of John Deere equipment. And the one, I don't remember them, but I do remember Joe Tardy running it. He used to be their mechanic, and he eventually bought the business. And he used to have every piece of John Deere equipment you could think of. Combines, rakes, balers, manure spreaders, tractors, all lined up the whole length of that driveway from Main Street all the way up to North Street. And I remember that very, very well.
What were all the farms like back when there's a whole bunch of them?
Most of them were about, average about 25 cows, and most of the milk went in here to Newport cheese plant, the Hood cheese plant. Dad's milk went in there for about, started out with Whitings in 1946, and then Hood's bought them, and he shipped into that till it closed in 95. And then his milk ended up going into Charlestown in Boston. I'm not sure of that date. I'll check that date out on when that plant closed, but it was he shipped his milk into that till it did, and then it went to Charlestown. It used to go to Southwest Harbor once in a while in the summer months when the tourist was heavy on the coast. They would come buy his milk and bottle it down there to Southwest Harbor. Lloyd Pierce used to haul that. Used to haul that every other day down to Southwest Harbor.
Let's see.
The grain companies, we had grain companies. We had Carter. I remember the grain used to come in on railroad cars, and I'd go down with Dad to load the trucks, 100-pound bags, would load his the old GMC up, and do that every other week. That grain cars would come in on the railroad cars in Pittsfield behind the library, and then down by the Hood plant in Newport. It would alter from week to week, and Dad would usually buy probably 6 tons, and all of it's handled by 100-pound bags.
How about all the canneries and stuff?
The canneries were pretty much out of business, for I remember. A lot of them were out in the late 50s, early 60s. I do remember Snowflake Cannery up there at Corinna, and a lot of potatoes went in there for French fries. And I remember that the night that burnt, that was a very large fire and a big loss to the area. Employed a lot of people, and so that's the only cannery and any food processing immediate around here that I remember.
How about, were there many potato farms around?
There was there's two that I remember in the area. You had Brad Streets, and then you had Link Folsom, and then you had of course Ralph Smith in Corinna, and then you get up in the Atkinson Dover area. I remember Cleves and the Smiths up there. So wasn't a lot of potato in the immediate area. Mostly dairy in this area, dairy and poultry. You had Joe Millett over here that had big caged laying hens, and then Ray Fields up here on the Libby Hill Road had a big laying cage house. So it's mostly dairy around the immediate area, and some of the chickens, but a couple, not too much potato. Potatoes you got over into the Exeter area, and of course the Worcester County.
That's pretty good right there.